As the 19th century faded into history and the 20th century dawned, the Urhobo people found themselves at a pivotal juncture. The British colonial government, emboldened by treaties and recent conquests, sought to establish firm governance across the Niger Delta. The Urhobo, like many other communities, faced the challenge of navigating a world that blended the promises of progress with the shadow of subjugation. While some coastal Urhobo towns welcomed the British protectorate, waiving their treaties and accepting subsidies, the deeper interior remained a different story. Many of these villages had only vaguely heard of the white man and his government. Some dismissed this new force as distant and irrelevant, while others viewed it with suspicion. For the British, establishing control meant more than simply signing agreements. It required taming resistance, fostering indirect rule through local leaders, and opening up the region for trade and infrastructure. At first, the British met resistance in various forms. Though major expeditions such as the capture of Chief Nana of Itsekiri and the defeat of the Oba of Benin occurred outside Urhobo territory, their reverberations were deeply felt. Nana's wealth and influence as a trader and the Oba's mystical aura of power had long inspired both respect and fear among the Urhobo. Their defeats shattered the belief in the invincibility of traditional rulers and left the Urhobo with little choice but to acknowledge British authority. Resistance, however, was not easily extinguished. In one instance, Eferu, a town that had signed a protection treaty, was set ablaze by colonial forces after its chief defied the government and caused trade disruptions. Similarly, a town in eastern Urhobo was partially destroyed after locals refused to surrender a criminal and even assaulted a consular messenger. These dramatic acts of suppression sent a clear message. The British were determined to impose their will, even through force. The British government quickly realized that long-term control required more than punitive measures. Between 1901 and 1909, they embarked on a strategy to stabilize the region. Patrols and small-scale expeditions into areas like Orhakpor, Kwale, Agbasa, and Iede were aimed at suppressing unrest and ensuring compliance. Abraka became a key administrative hub, with a barracks and a district commissioner stationed there to oversee the surrounding region. Indirect rule became the preferred method of governance. Chiefs and headmen were appointed as intermediaries, tasked with enforcing colonial policies, maintaining peace, and promoting trade. These leaders, though drawn from Urhobo communities, often found themselves walking a tightrope between the demands of their people and the expectations of the colonial authorities. The colonial administration recognized that trade was the lifeblood of their control. Rivers and creeks were cleared to facilitate transportation, allowing goods like palm oil and yams to flow more efficiently to coastal markets. Roads were constructed, cutting through dense forests to connect previously isolated villages. These developments opened up new opportunities but also brought deeper incursions into Urhobo land and life. At Abraka and other government posts, colonial officers worked to implement these changes. They relied heavily on local labor and sometimes forced participation, leaving behind a legacy of resentment. Yet the roads and cleared waterways also brought new economic prospects, transforming some villages into bustling trade centers. Even as order was imposed, challenges persisted. Impersonation became a widespread issue, with locals posing as government police or messengers. These imposters exploited their assumed authority to settle disputes, levy fines, and intimidate villagers. This lawlessness highlighted the fragile balance of power in a region still grappling with the concept of centralized governance. In places like Agbasa, resistance flared again in 1907. The refusal of local leaders to accept colonial authority led to another patrol, during which the town was finally subdued. 2 chiefs were captured and held until peace was restored, marking a turning point in the area's relationship with the British government. By 1909, with the withdrawal of patrol units and the establishment of a civil police, the British had secured a semblance of stability in Urhobo land. Yet this period was not simply a story of subjugation. It was also one of adaptation and resilience. The Urhobo people, though forced to accommodate the colonial system, found ways to maintain their cultural identity and traditions. Chiefs played dual roles as representatives of their communities and enforcers of colonial law, navigating a delicate balance that preserved local governance structures while adapting to new realities.